Hello, good morning, my dear friends. We are going to discuss today the land reforms, another aspect. Okay, so this is our 7 chapters of the Sanju Verma books. So this time I mentioned so many things here. So also slide in. So don't worry, I explain it detailing. So listen carefully. If you want to, you can write it. Means you can make your notes. Okay. If you do not have books, so don't worry. No need to books. If you listen carefully, you can get the everything. Okay. So we start. So land reform aspect, starting with here. So contemporary land reforms in India addressed of the aspect such as abolition of the Jamindari systems, land ceiling acts, reforms in tenancy, rights of tenants, redistribution of the surplus lands, land consolidation. These have been a focus area right since independence. Largely within the state governments is the dominant. They continue to be the priority in area with the prevalence of large number of the small and marginal farmers and also large number of the landless farmers. The object of the chapter is to the bringing out the new perspective which has become the extremely relevant and also would require to be the address the equal importance of the priority in tenant entitlement and with requirements of the economies. So total cover under the agriculture is around the 60% of the land area in India. The various of the article is mentioned the declining of the trends of area under the agriculture as the distribution of the trends. Okay, the forest area of forest cover of the India is around the 20%, and unreported is the 5%, and remaining 30% is the mountain, river, and also non-agriculture purpose including industries. Those total land area for the industry and service sectors infrastructures activities is only 11%. So how much of the GDP is the countable by the various sectors in economies in relation to be the land using? So agriculture consumes of the 60% of the land's area, whereas the contribution only 70% of the GDP, while the industry and service sector distributing 80% of the GDP, but has only the 11% of the land area. Growth in future will be require large land area under the non-agriculture for the industry, service sectors and activities, also for the building the infrastructure. This is not only undermining the importance of the agriculture sectors in India. The issue is lying to improve the agriculture productivity rather than the area under the agriculture. This is the sector is the important for the food security and also for the meetings and the requirement of the growing the population. However, at the same times it cannot become a driver of the growth. So this was to be the driver of the ground, the widened the diversification of the manufacturing and industry has been based will the require the freeing of the lands under the agriculture. At least there should be the political acceptability in the of this fact. I hope you got it whatever I said here. So these are the things in aspect in the political land reforms. We also told here the Jamindari land cedings and the percentage lands. So please try to be the memorize and these things, which is I told the 60% of the land in India is the contribution only 70% in GDP, 20% of the forest covers and 5 unreported. We all know the 23% is the forest cover of 2017-18 reports according to the 2018 reports. So 23% in the mountains, remaining of the land in industry and service sectors. These are things. Okay. So we are moving now. Second, land acquisition bill. So at the present of there is a lot of the resistance of the conversion of the land, agricultural land for the non-agriculture using the subject matters of the respective the state government. Further, the present policy of the land acquisition is being done in terms of the Land Acquisition Act 1894. Now the amended, the company are restive over the delay of this project, mainly due to the serious problems in land acquisition, environmental clearance. 18 measures of the projects in sectors such as the steel, power, to the equivalence to the 2,44,800.15 crores are the stuck due to the procedures relating to the land acquisition and forest environmental clearance. In the absence of the investment in the critical area, it will be the difficult to the increasing level of the growth. Already India is experiencing a slowdown in growth investment, which need to be the scale of. This is not a acquisition of the source, but their conversion into investment and issue. It is in issue. So it is a context. A new land acquisition law entitled there the right to fair compensation and transference in land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement bill 2012 has been enacted to replace to the existing land acquisition act 1894. The act will be providing the transparent the process of the land acquisition for the industrialization, the development of the initial infrastructure facilities, urbanization with a least disturbance to owners of the lands and other affected the families whose the land has been acquired, and also to be the family whose livelihood are affected by the land acquisition will now get the just fair and compensation. Propose the land acquisition law defines the public purpose, so to prevent the arbitrary acquisition of land. Social impact assessment and the establishment the public purpose has to be made the mandated through the participation process. The affected the family have to be the guaranteed the certain right to the rehabilitation and resettlement. Safeguard for the protecting the food security, limitation, prohibition on the acquisition of the land in scheduled area within the consent of the Gram Sabha has been done to the ensure the special dispensation to the SC/ST with regarding the compensation, resettlement and the rehabilitation. It is the appreciable moving by the government for the reviving a policy of the frames and over the 100 years ago would be for the first times in the comprehensively cover the acquisition, rehabilitation and the resettlement under one act. It is a landmark bill, but at the same time it is also the feel that it could be the increasing the cost of project for which the land is being acquired the manifold. At the border levels, this bill will be lead to uniformity and transparency, remove the ambiguity and more importance of the facility process of the convergence of the land for the agriculture, non-agriculture facility investment in economy. While the act will be the landmarks in the land reforms in the post-independence, there are the still unresolved the issue which would need the attention of the government as part of the land reforms. So these are the issues, and also this is the land acquisition bills. I explained the fully and detailedly the what is the land acquisition, and also with the bill 2012 and act 1894. So it's replaced now. Okay, those benefits and also with the schedules, areas, programs and functions. So national land using policy, efficiency in the use of land. So we are going to discuss here, land is the scarcest resource for the country. Every effort should be made to have the land efficiency, either in agriculture, in many other activity. It should be the appropriate to the have to the central government level, national land use policy, and within the broad umbrella, the state government could have their respective the land use policy. This will result is better the utilization of the land depending on the priorities of the governments and balance between the competing the use of the land based on the efficiency of productivity. The important also line in fact that this policy should then become the base of land acquisition bill, not on the other way around, the first acquiring the land and then talking about the land using policy. So this is the our national land using policy. Efficiency in the using of the land. Now we moving the fourth concept, leasing on the agricultural land. This is the most important concept. So the lease out of the land is only for the non-agricultural land, and the agricultural land can be only be the used for the self cultivation or the could be the sold to. Present law do not be allow the leasing of the giving lease of the land and giving out in the agricultural land on rent. The farmer who cannot be the undertaken the farming their entire of the land area, or those who are not be the interested can rent out their lands to those who are interested or those who do not have a land. This could be help to increasing the both productivity as well as the production and productivity as well, and also lead a way to the make the agriculture and commercial venture, which presently is by the large livelihood activity. Widespread prohibition of the land leasings and prevent the healthy rural urban migration, as the village unable to the lease their lands and often have to leave the land until or the leaving the family members and behind the worker on land. The lifting these of the restrictions and can help to landless the acquiring the land from those who the migrate, even while it will allow the landowners and education and the skill to moving the industry and service. The widespread prohibition of the land leasing, the prevention healthy and rural urbanization migration, as the villagers are unable to lease their lands and often have to leave the land until to leave the family members behind the work of the land. Shifting these the restriction can help to the landless acquiring their land from those and the migrants, and even while it will allow to land owners with education skill to the moving the industry and services. Sorry for the repeated whole line. Compulsory registration of the leasehold of the owner, the title would provide the tenant and the landowners the protection of course for the such a leasing of the markets to taken off the owner, and would be the confidence that along the terms and the tenancy and would not lead to their losing ownership with vibrance of the leasing of lands and the clear title. There would be a little reason for not with the strengthening their ownership rights. This leasing hold the mechanism can also be the considered for the large project and also be the infrastructure which would be the abundant. The need for the land acquisition and by the past the many issues such as the cost and compensation to the paid, the resettlement, another such a issue. It will also keep the capital cost down of large project and make a land available quickly for the project. Moving from the presumptive to conclusive, the title. Economic Survey 2012-13 mentioned in the National Land Records Modernization Programs, which started during the 2008, aim to the updating the digitizing of the land record by the end of the 12th plan. Eventually, its intended is to moving from the presumptive the titles where the registration of the title does not be the in place. The owners of the title is the legally valid. The conclusive the title where it is done. Digitizations will help to the lowering and the cost of lands and transaction, while the conclusive title will be the eliminate the legal uncertainties and the requirement to using the governments as and the intermediary for the acquiring the land. So the cleanness the titles. This is a time to the consuming the activity require the activities engagement of the state governments and the leveling technology, and would be the need to be the complete in the time bounding manner. Once completed, it would be the bring the transparency in a land dealings, allow the for the fair pricing and developments of the organization market. The computerization of the land records. The majority of the issue of the countered by the people in exercising the control over the lands is become to the complex of the land record systems. It is the overwhelming and the controlling by the lowers and level bureaucracy. There is a need to make a land records and accessible the understood by the common man's livings in village. It is the unfortunate that the system of the land administration management, despite its long history in India, has remained the neglected in most of the parts of the country, particularly after developing the agenda became the major focus of the government administration. In the recent of the few decades, regularly survey that the settlements and the operation started after the independence where the abundance under to the mistaken the notion that is the whole exercise the aim to the periodically the revisions of the land revenues which had no place in the democratic politics, and particularly because of there were the another major course of the revenue. It was a title they realized the proper of the scientifically updated the land records are not the only the critical for the agriculture development but also be the backbones of the development of the efforts. The manual of the updating and the physical verification of the land records before there is the computerization is must. There should be a national authority for the computerization of the records, NACLR, at the government of the India level. In most of the states, the working is being handled by the direct of the land records in survey who are not be able to them cope up with the tax or the account of their the multiple responsibility, and this is the acquired a low priority. There is those at need at that the state level. There should be a dedicated institution in form of that the state authority for the computerization of the land records, similar to the NACL to exclusively deal with computerization of the land records, and both should work in the tandem. The completed the process in the time bounding period. Such a digitized land records would be the useful the creating the national portals of the land records and the furthering the land reforms being the attempting the since independence beyond the land records and the land rights. There are a few more continuous the complex issue in Indian today's than those of dealing with lands and land rights, rather than the focusing the lands and issue of the insulation continuum of the rights has to be the established regarding the lands, especially the area of accessive the reforms and the laws enforcement using the plans and management administration information and another across of the cutting issue. The new existing of the initiatives of the land should be the guided by the core value of the poor and conflict resolution, democratic governance, equity, justice, as well as the gender sensitivities. Although the land policy development is taking the place is the generally the lack of the human right framework. Land is not a simple source for one human right, while some of the rights has been recently established in a legal framework such as education as the education food. They can all be in the advisory affected by the excessive and the lack of the accessible to the lands, and this legal implication of it for the broad range of the human rights in obvious. The resolving land issue and land reforms in the largely weak falls in the dominance of the state governments as a result of the programs in priority accorded to this is the sensitive issue has not been uniform across the different states. It has not got a desired attention of the because of the vested and the interesting of the groups nexus between the land mafia and the political parties. There is a need to rising above them and import a decisive the trust and the resolve to implementing the land reforms and the nation in interesting and also for the benefits of the large class of the sections of the peoples and landless and poor. Okay, thank you my friends. We completed our chapters here. Okay, so please subscribe our channels and like, also click the bell icon.